Hi, I'm Cassie Burton, and this is Curiosity Junkie. Today's guest is a painter, poetry writer, and she leads Soundbaths. Please welcome Sammie Burgett to the podcast. Hi, Sammie Burgett. Welcome to Curiosity Junkie.
Hi, Cassie. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I am excited to talk to you about many things. You do so much. You are on Insight Timer, one of my favorite meditation apps. So you do sound baths, you're a painter, you're a poet, you've written a couple of books. Like, wow, what haven't you done? I love it.
Thank you. It's been a challenge at times to figure out how does all of this fit together. I've always tried to put a label on like what is it that I do, but I just kind of have to, throw my hands up and accept that I just like to create things. And
That's
yeah.
yes, yes, I love it. Well, let's start with the sound bath piece because, like I said, Insight Timer is one of my favorite apps, and I know that's where you are. I found you on there and on Instagram is kind of how we connected. So let's talk about how did you get on that path, that journey?
Oh, Insight Timer was something that I've used since about 2017, I think. And that's about the time when I really started to get interested in sound baths. That is really when I had kind of what I called my spiritual awakening, and I was really going through deconstructing some of my childhood beliefs. And it was just a very anxious, difficult time. And sound baths, actually Tibetan singing bowls, were something I was really drawn to at first. And so I started listening to those on Insight Timer. And I remember one night specifically, I kind of felt like this tugging in the back of my head all night. And then when I laid down for the night to go to bed, I was sucked into an astral projection, which I've had before, but this one was like really intense. And I found myself in a little circle somewhere with other women, and we were all playing crystal singing bowls. And so since then, I would like hear crystal singing bowls kind of in my ears, just even going around day to day, and was hooked from that point onward. So wow. Yeah, so it was just one of those crazy things. And I ended up getting a set of bowls for myself because it really, the sound baths have been such a healing thing for me to help soothe my anxiety and just center me and kind of get me out of my head, actually. So as I was creating more and more songs for myself, I figured this could be something that, I could possibly share. So I started sharing on Insight Timer then. Just this last year, I think. So
yeah. And I think that's what's really interesting as you kind of start on a self-awareness journey and that healing path is you find something that really touches you or works for you, and then we just want to share it with everybody.
Yeah. I figured if it helps me, then there's got to be other people out there that it could help too. And so yeah.
Love that. Well, when it comes to the singing bowls, and I have probably 5, but not the crystal ones. Like mine are the metal, brass. I don't even know what they really are constructed out. I just heard one, and then I got one as a gift, and slowly kind of collected a few. I have no idea what the hertz are on them. How do you know that? Like when you buy them, is that something specific you learn or what?
Yes. So it's still something that's a little confusing to me even to this day. But when I was researching my set, you typically get singing bowls, whether they're made of the metal or crystal singing bowls. You typically go for sets that are tuned to 432 hertz or 528 hertz. And I specifically chose 432 because it's supposed to be really grounding, soothing, relaxing, just overall good for centering yourself. And what that means basically is every bowl that I have in my set has its own frequency, its own hertz, but they are all a ratio of that 432 hertz. So basically they all work together. They all are tuned to the same system. So each bowl has its own note and each bowl correlates to its own chakra, but they all are tuned to the 432 hertz. So
Yeah.
so that's, you can use a tuner if you want to figure out what the specific hertz is of each individual singing bowl. But that's why I enjoyed getting a specific set where I know that they're all going to be a ratio of that 432 hertz. So these bowls in particular will complement each other very well. So, but in like your case, if you start collecting one-off bowls here and there, you can use a tuner and I believe find out that specific hertz using any online app tuner. So
I did not know
that's my
that
understanding.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a possibility because I'm like, I have no idea what these are, but they speak to me, and I figure that's really all that matters. Is they're really just for me. I enjoy them.
Exactly. That's how I feel too. Like I know that they each have their own hertz, but I focus more on what chakra does this represent and how does it make me feel. So yeah.
Oh, that's cool too, that they each represent a chakra and can kind of focus on a certain, if you're kind of in that mindset where you're just focused on like the root or the throat or whatever, you can tune in and dial into that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That's how I like to compose pieces. I usually pick a kind of tap into myself and see like, okay, am I experiencing anxiety? Am I hoping to do some deep meditation? And based off of what my intention is, then I'll pick the chakra associated with it and pick notes that harmonize with that bowl to create a little piece. So,
okay. So there is some thought that goes in to the process. And do you just like sit down and whatever comes to you kind of comes to you from there? Like, don't map it out. You just know you want to touch these bowls because that's what's your focus is?
Yes, I start with an intention, pick basically just one or two bowls to start with that sound well together. And then I go. I kind of get into a meditative state and just do it intuitively from there.
Yeah. This popped in my head when you said intuitive state. When you were talking just a little bit ago about the experience that you had that kind of brought you to kind of your creative side, I guess.
Yeah.
I read on I think it was on the back of the one book, Vignettes.
Yes.
That you have had those experiences since you were a child.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. At the time growing up, I perceived them very differently. I grew up in a very religious household. And so it was something that I was terrified of. I thought that I was possessed, like literally by demons. And it was something that was definitely not peaceful or inspiring at all. And so that first book, Vignettes, was just about really embracing and rewiring that these experiences, these things aren't evil. They're not scary. They're not outside of me. These are all things, pure good things that I'm experiencing from within, and I'm in control and I can be safe. So
yeah, that would be a little weird as a kid, not really understanding what that is. And with what I guess I would call organized religion, kind of what we're taught to believe is normal.
Yes.
And society, not just religion, society, you know, like there's the norm that we're all supposed to aspire to be, I guess.
Yeah.
So do you play any other instruments?
I as a child, I used to dabble in piano, flute a little bit, ukulele, but I grew up playing violin though. Played in a little orchestra, local orchestra, and at school and events like that. But I haven't touched it in a couple years since having my kids, but technically I play violin.
Right. Yeah. Kids kind of change where our free time goes. We don't have it.
Yes. Yeah.
But I love it. Well, I saw you painting on Instagram, the blues. Those are my colors. And I just thought, oh, wow, she paints too. How crazy is this? So have you always painted, or is this something new for you?
This is, I've kind of dabbled with paints over the last couple years, but I only very recently, like within the last month, started to explore it more seriously. And I think it's something that I'm going to be playing around with for a long time. It has been so much fun to just kind of dive in and get creative and yeah, so it's a newer venture, but I think it's going to be one that I play around with for a while.
Did you ever paint as a kid or kind of dabble in drawing or any of that?
I drew for sure. I definitely would draw with graphite and charcoal. That was always my favorite medium growing up. I didn't have as much access to the paints until very recently, but now that I can paint, that's definitely my preferred medium.
Yes. Well, it was beautiful. The moment I saw it, I was like, ooh,
Oh, thank
the
you.
brushstrokes were going on like, oh man, that is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
But yes, I hope you do continue because you definitely have a gift for it. And I looked on Etsy and you have several pieces there and they're absolutely beautiful. And we'll get into that when we
Okay.
go to share. But I do want to kind of talk about your poetry books because I love poetry. My daughter and I just spent some time together and she was sharing one of her favorite poetry books and reading to me in the evening. And I'm like, oh, I love that it comes from someone like they feel this, they've experienced it, whatever it is. It's just so beautiful. So let's talk about your books. You have 2 out.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me,
Yes,
go ahead and do the titles.
The first book is Vignettes, Poetry for the Awakened Soul.
Mhm.
And it's a smaller book. It's a teeny tiny book. And then this next book is called Unraveling, Diary of a Self-Healer.
Ooh.
So
Yes. Okay. And that one is kind of like some of the pages are like handwritten, or is the whole thing?
the only part that's not handwritten is the intro. So all of the poems from front to cover are all handwritten. I hand wrote the poems all within, I actually went on like a teeny little trip for 2 days, like a year or two ago, and wrote the entire, like hand wrote all of these poems I had gathered. My hand was like broken. It took a lot of writing. And then over the next following several months to a year, I digitally scanned those and assembled them, sometimes letter by letter, even into my manuscript document. So the whole thing is handwritten. Yeah.
Wow. So how long does something like that take you? Because I would imagine poetry isn't something that just the whole book flows out of you. You probably have moments where you're inspired, or like, how does that work?
So for me, it's almost like a seasonal thing. So, and this is how it was with vignettes too. And I think it's because I have so many different creative projects going on at once. With these poetry books, it's been, okay, I'm feeling uninspired with these other things. Now's the time to do the poetry book. When I'm writing my poetry books, it's typically a very intuitive process. I tap into what I'm feeling, and it's almost like translating those emotions into words. And for me, it just so happens to flow like poetry. I don't know why I don't intentionally set out to write poetry, but it's almost like the language of my emotions. I guess it just comes out that way. So for this book, Unraveling, I would throw on like a single song that I found really inspiring, something that makes me feel something like in my root or sacral chakra. And I almost get in like a meditative state and get lost in the words. And it's kind of this delicate balance of tapping into things and emotions that I haven't dealt with, and then putting words to those so that I can process it out. So the whole book is essentially my emotions as I'm processing them.
Oh, wow.
So, yes, hopefully that makes sense.
Yes, yes.
It's difficult to articulate it.
Yeah. Well, because it is kind of that, it's just an experience kind of flowing through you is really what it sounds like.
Yes, yeah. That yeah.
Processing. Yeah. Which makes, to me, it makes it very vulnerable. And sharing that would be, I don't know, is that a little intimidating, scary? Like,
It is, because the goal of this book was to try to present these poems, these emotions, as genuinely as possible, with as little editing and tampering as possible, because I think you can really feel when somebody's being really genuine and vulnerable. But that also means that there's a lot of vulnerabilities in there. And so I think I just have to recognize that when I'm absorbing somebody else's art or somebody else's poetry or music, I can recognize that experience that they're talking about, or the things that they're sharing, are very personal to them. But I have my own interpretation, and it means something different to me. And so I have to remind myself, like, some of these things are a little scary to say out loud and to share with other people, but it's not about me. This book is about what it means to the person reading the book. And so I try to disconnect myself from it in that sense.
ooh, that's kind of cool. I like that. I think that's what I like about poetry, is when you read it, it's touching something in you that maybe you haven't processed or
Yeah.
have processed, but it's just, I don't know that that stuff ever really 100% goes away. We still
Right.
are always processing and trying to figure out what's triggering us and all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of also what my book tries to reflect, because it's called, I was a little unsure about titling it Unraveling Diary of a Self-Healer, because I don't want to imply that there's like this perfect end goal that like you're self-healed, you've figured it out. The book starts off pretty strongly with that battle of feeling addicted to self-help, in my personal experience, especially when I kind of had a huge mindset shift and left some of my childhood beliefs behind, I found myself stuck in this endless loop of trying to self-heal, of trying to figure things out, even whether I was seeking help from other people or just trying to journal every night, and just constantly trying to problem solve and nitpick. Am I doing this right? What did I do wrong here? How can I fix this? And I didn't have like an identity apart from that. And so it's called Diary of a Self-Healer, but the book is about first recognizing I'm addicted to this. I've made my identity being a self-healer, and I don't feel good like that. And then it moves on to trying to explore that delicate balance between knowing that you can tap in, and take a look at things when they come up. You can handle problems when they arise, but also building your own identity apart from being a self-healer or somebody who's just trying to self-improve. And then the final section is about embodying that new identity, just trying to find this balance and compartmentalize things a little bit so that you can enjoy things that make you you, other than just constantly trying to improve yourself.
Yes, yes. I'm so glad you said that, because it really can almost become an addiction where you're just like, well, what is this? Let me, you're analyzing everything you're thinking, doing, and you do have to just kind of go, okay, it's just life, and things are going to come up, and I'm not perfect. I never will be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you brought up kind of that growing up religious based. I did too. I understand that. And kind of what I would consider like restrictive religion. So at what age were you when you kind of really started questioning, like, wait a minute, is this real? What?
I think I always challenge certain things I would have like conversations with those around me where I was like, I don't know about this, but I definitely didn't acknowledge that I was even doing that until I married my husband in 2016 and moved out of the town entirely and was entirely separated. Because for me, it was even too scary to even consider that I was even questioning it. So there, now looking back in hindsight, I can see that there were signs that I was always like unsure about certain things. And but it was a very big, quick, powerful wake up call when I actually moved away. And that's when it all switched. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of amazing too when you really start to question and then open up, I guess is what I think of as opening up to things that you haven't been taught. What don't I know?
Yes, that's an even better way to put it. Yeah. It was like this whole world. That's such a good way to put it, because it's almost like you're in this. I felt like I was in this tiny little box for so long, and I didn't even know I was in this box. And then suddenly, the second I started actually questioning those beliefs and, the way I lived my life, then this whole world opened up. and you could see how so many other people live differently, and that's okay. And that's actually a beautiful thing.
Yes, yes, that is. I love that message. The Thich Nhat Hanh, he's a Buddhist, Zen Buddhist something, and he has a quote out that is, "The opposite of what you know is also true." And when I found that, I was like, "That's it. That's it,"
Yes.
because we only know what we're taught by people who only know what they're taught, and then it just goes on and on. So when the moment you can really open up your heart and your mind and just kind of say, what don't I know? Who can I learn from? Wow, the world just changes immensely. And I found I was filled with so much more love.
Yeah. And empathy and just
Yes.
compassion for people who are different from you. And it's a powerful thing to be able to acknowledge that other people do things differently. And I don't have to understand why every time. It can all be harmonious.
Yes, yes. I don't want to over explain what I'm thinking or doing or what I'm passionate about. So I wouldn't want anybody else to have to over explain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. No, I love that. And then the chakra work, were you, what point did you kind of get into that? So like you get married and you start questioning what else don't I know? And then
Yes.
well, how does it like step by step? What was the first thing that you really kind of became curious about?
So with the spirituality in general, when did that introduce? Okay, so 2016, I was married. Um, I would say that year was a huge identity crisis. 2016, slowly to 2017. That's when I kind of put to rest all of some of the religious things that I had grown up with, and then I think what got me into the different other spirituality things was I was still having experiences. I was astral projecting and feeling people in the room with me. I had some pretty, unexplainable at the time psychic kind of events that would happen, things that you couldn't deny. And so at that point, I was like, okay, well, I don't necessarily believe the things I used to believe, but this is still real. It's still existing. So I dove in and tried to find answers there, which got me on track with the spirituality, all of those things and teachings. And it was a very quick snowball effect. Once I was able to embrace that those things were just part of my truth and just part of my experience, and were good, real things, then it was like an obsession almost. Like I just wanted to learn everything I could about every modality. So yoga, I got my Reiki training, and I would meditate all the time, and just I just explored a lot all at once. So
and I think
yeah.
that's really it's a good thing, because not everything works for everybody. There are so many different options and things to explore out there, that you can find something that helps you with anxiety or brings you peace, or whatever it is you're looking to connect with. And so I'm all about encouraging people to explore anything and everything, because there will be something that speaks to you that will help you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, that's a beautiful way to put that, because I see benefits in all of these different modalities, and there's not one that's better than the other. It's just what resonates with you. And I find too that like during some seasons of my life, certain modalities resonate more than others, and they can wax and wane and come and go. So.
Yes, yes, yeah. I've lately been on a little bit of a yoga. I've kind of been introduced to that, and so now I'm starting down that path and going to get my yoga teacher training in this next
Oh,
year. So I'm super excited. But it's just
very
interesting.
cool.
Yeah, it's interesting how it starts. Like meditation was kind of a big
Yeah.
thing for me, and journaling. I still journal. I meditate. It's hit and miss, but I have my times when I really need it and I go back to it. But I'm kind of heading into yoga, and that's why I think it's really important to just continue to explore and learn. I'm a huge learner, and I think
Yeah.
people, once you start kind of down this path, have you found that it just takes you to the next thing, because you read or find out about something and then you're like, wait, I need to know more about that.
That's definitely been my experience. I'm a Sagittarius, so but that I don't know if it's just that or what, but yes, that's absolutely how I've experienced it as well. I just yes.
Leo, I don't know what that says either, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I get a hold of something, I'm like, oh, let me just dig into this
Dive
and learn
in.
everything I can.
Yes, I love, and I think it's cool to recognize too that we are fluid. We can be, that was a huge thing for me to kind of rewire. I always felt so much shame for jumping around and trying to learn all these different things, and I still have to fight that sometimes. Like, well, why don't I just stick with singing bowls or just do painting? And I have to remind myself, like, I don't have to feel shame for that. It's that curiosity is a beautiful thing. It's never something to be ashamed of. And I'm a fluid being. And so, yeah.
I like that. That's a great way to put it. Fluid. We are fluid and ever changing. So
Yeah.
never shame that piece, because we do. We think, oh God, people are going to think I'm onto this one and then I'm onto that one. It's like, it's just part of the learning and growing process. And we should constantly be evolving. That's my theory.
Yes, I think so too.
Yes. Well, Sammie, let's talk about how people can connect with you. How do they find your sound baths, your books, like your paintings? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So I am on many platforms. So the easiest way to find any of my offerings at this moment is through my Instagram bio. There's a link there, and you can go everywhere just from there. But I'm on every platform. My handle is Sammie Burgett. So I try to make it easy. So Insight Timer, I do free sound baths. I try to go post those weekly, and that's Sammie Burgett. I have my books on Amazon. So again, you can find those there. And then I also do have an Etsy shop, a little shop where I sell crystals and some books and things there. And that's Sammie Burgett as well. So
fantastic. Well, I will definitely get all of the links and share them in the descriptions for the podcast and on the YouTube channel. And then I'll run them across the bottom of the video too. So everybody will have an opportunity to click on and go check out Sammie and all of her offerings, because she has a lot of really great stuff. And I do listen to you on Insight Timer, and I have shared your offerings there as well. I have a little circle that I run, so
thank you. That's so sweet. Thank Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm like that. When I find something I like or someone doing
Yeah.
something that really speaks to me, I have to share it. So
Oh.
yeah. Well, let's wrap up with what advice would you have or words of wisdom would you have for someone who really is in tune with that creative piece of themselves? They're wanting to share, but maybe they're afraid to. What would you say to them?
I would say this is actually something that I struggle with. And so I would say if it's something that really inspires you and lights you up on the inside, trust it, because your curiosities, your inspiration is always pure and nothing to be ashamed about. And so don't worry about how other people are going to perceive your work, because you can't control that. All you can control is how you feel. And if it's something that lights you up, then it's worth sharing. If so, give it a shot.
Yes, I 100% agree with that. And don't worry what anybody else is going to say or think. Who cares? They're going to say
Right.
whether you put it out there or not.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes that has helped me with this is, what other people think of you is none of your business.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Beautifully said. I love that. Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, Sammie, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all that you have out in the world. I really appreciate everything that you're doing. It's beautiful.
oh, thank you so much. And thank you for doing your work. I love podcasts like yours where we can connect with other people and all just, it's like hanging out.
It's beautiful, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I love it. Well, to all of you out there, thank you so much for tuning in, listening, watching. Stay safe, stay curious, and I'll see you next time.